It's time for the news. About that time again, ain't it? You guys getting as many Robo calls as I get? Calling about, I don't know what it is. I just hang up on those people anymore. Credit card, informational calls. I don't even know what they're all about. I got 2 calls from an IRS agent that sounded like he might have been in India somewhere. You know what I'm talking about, right? And I've called Verizon. They give me a free app that I could download that's supposed to help limit those calls. They said it wouldn't get rid of every one of them, but it would help. So I did that, and all the app does is it still rings. It just comes up with a memo saying that this phone number is not in my phone book and this could be a scam or a potential scam or whatever. Big deal. I don't know how they're doing it, but all I know is for the money we pay for these cell phones and everything, this shouldn't be happening. You know, I'm on a no-call list like I know many other people are too, and this shouldn't be happening. Now, I don't know who's responsible for all this, but Verizon needs to dig in that deep pocket they got. They better figure it out, because I'm not going to get barraged with 15 and 20 calls every day on my phone, 15, 20 calls on my wife's phone every day. And it's getting ridiculous. And I mean, I'm to the point that if I don't do something about it, I'm just going to do away with the phone. I don't need it. Don't particularly care if I won't have it. I'll go back to an old flip phone for $9.95 a month or something like that. And if you want to talk to me, you better call me, because I'm not going to, you know, if I want to do an app, I'll go to the computer. So I'm just getting fed up with it. Let's go down here. Suspect in burglary in the Villages arrested at Laurel Manor Professional Plaza. Florida man arrested after dining on spaghetti with his bare hands. That was done outside of the Olive Garden up on 466. I go to that Olive Garden quite frequently, actually. We were there just a couple days ago for lunch. And it's a nice area. And it's a nice Olive Garden. Like the rest of the Villages, it's very clean. It's very neat. The idea of I'm looking at a picture of the guy, and I don't know how to really word it, but you know me. Some trashy looking, bummy looking guy that doesn't look like he's taken a bath in weeks, sitting outside an Olive Garden eating spaghetti with his bare hands. Just makes me wonder is how did he get the food? Where did he get the food? Why does he think he can sit in front of this kind of place and do that kind of thing? Except drugs. And it seems like drugs are pretty prevalent around here. Don't know why that is, but it seems like it's really prevalent around here. Twirlers from throughout the Villages came together to celebrate special day. It says lazy villagers putting wildlife at risk. People using the ponds to go fishing, that's what they're talking about. And they're not cleaning up. They throw cigarette butts all over the ground, which is littering, really. And they cut their lines. They leave the old lines and fishing nets and things like that around the water, and wildlife get tangled up in them or caught in them. Plastic bags. Generally speaking, now you don't see very much of that at all inside the Villages, at all. I don't want to make it sound like it's turning into trash. It's not. What happens is contractors running around here doing work, and a lot of these contractors really are not very, they're not very good at what they do. And they don't really care about anybody in here. All they care about is getting a job done quick, grab the money and go. These are the guys that are usually in pickup trucks with a trailer on the back, and they don't have the name of their company on the side of the pickup truck, so you never know who they are. Those guys. I don't do business with those guys. I just won't do it. Well, they throw stuff in the back of the truck all the time, and then when they go home or whatever, and they drive down Buena Vista or Morris Boulevard, plastic bags and crap like that will blow out of the back of the pickup truck because they didn't fasten it down. And there's no sense in it. There's no excuse for it. Those bags get blown over into a pond, and then maybe some bird or animal will get, hooked up with it or something like that. But the nets and the fishing line, pretty much those are village people that does that. These are also the same idiots that think feeding an alligator is like having a pet in your backyard, so there's always a small percentage of people, that to kind of make it bad on everybody. Hey, this don't have anything to do with the villages, but this might prove to be interesting for those of you that's thinking about having a part-time place or maybe moving to Florida full-time. It's a short ad. Melbourne, Florida. Access to launches, beautiful waterways, and a good mix of entertainment launches are just a few of the reasons Melbourne was named one of the best places to live in America in 2019. U.S. News & World Report released its annual ranking on Tuesday, with Melbourne ranking number 25 on the 125 city list. Sarasota, which came in at number 18, was the only other Florida city to crack the top 25. Ooh, Villages wasn't even on there. For perspective, here's how other Florida cities ranked. Fort Myers, 35. Pensacola was 37. Jacksonville, 42. Tampa, 56. Lakeland, 59. Orlando, 63. Daytona Beach, 99. And Miami was 113. Interesting. I'll get back to the Villages news now. Kind of breezy today. I need to go out there and trim my hedges. I'm always afraid that when I trim my hedges on a breezy day that some of the leaves and things off of it will blow around the neighborhood and get in other people's yards. So I try not to do it. But I might try today. SpaceX to make another attempt at Falcon Heavy launch. More than 24 possible graves found at Florida Reform School. More than 24 possible graves were discovered at the site, notorious Florida Reform School for boys, years after researchers found an estimated 50 unmarked graves on school grounds. I remember this report that was on like 60 Minutes or something. Apparently they found, I'm not going to read the whole thing, apparently they found some more. Do you know their CDDs and I don't know, all these different agencies they got around here for each district, they're wanting to raise the cap on amenity fees. Right now I think the cap's $159. And there's limits on that every year they can only raise the amenity fee like so many percent, and I don't know what that percent is. And they limit to that. And actually, all the years I've been here, it seems like it just goes up a few dollars a year, and I'm content with that. But the cap is $159 a month, and it can't go no higher than that, as long as we have that cap. I don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on, and I don't profess to know. I'm still with the thing of just work within your budget, because they spend so much money on so much frivolous stuff, in my mind. They just need to work within their budget. It almost sounds like, I don't want to get into politics, but, if I only make $2,000 a month, no matter what I want to do, I have to work within that $2,000 a month. I just can't, send Uncle Sam at Social Security office a message saying, hey, I want to raise my Social Security, and we're going to vote on that. I mean, I just can't. And so why that's turned around the other way and saying, hey, we want to do this and that, so we want to raise your amenity fees, I just don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me that people are willing to sit back and give up their rights, all in the name of an extra dollar, and say, sure, I'm good with that. Sure, go ahead and raise it $5 a month. That doesn't bother me all that much. Hell, $5 don't. But they're talking about raising the cap, and not one article have I read anywhere that says what they're wanting to raise it to. Want to raise it to $500 a month? I haven't heard anything. That's my argument about the whole thing. And some lady, I think it was a lady in Duval, came up with this idea, and thankful that people are thinking. I don't like it, but that's okay. She came up with an idea. She's trying to get something done without raising the amenity fees on everybody else, and I appreciate that. But this isn't going to work because I used to own rental property here. I know how it works, and as soon as I read her suggestion, I knew right then that ain't going to work, and for several reasons. But her suggestion was that possibly maybe they should start charging for guest passes. So in other words, if you're down here and a couple of your kids are coming down here, and let's say they have 2 children, your grandchildren also, 4 people coming down, you have to get a guest pass for each one of them, which you do right now, but now it's just free. They're saying that we ought to charge for guest pass for each person for the length of time they're going to be here. I don't know if that means so much per week, so much per day. I don't know what it means. So you'd have to buy 4 passes for your children and the grandchildren if you had 4 people coming down. The problem with that is put yourself in a landlord's position, a property owner's position, is that generally speaking, not all, but generally speaking, the big money that they make with rental property here is January, February, and March. Now that season is starting to lengthen out a little bit. People now are staying down here, it seems like more and more every year until the 1st of May. So the rent would be done, say, at the end of April. So 4 months. So the house is going to sit empty for 8 months. Just saying. October, they may get a little bit of rent. No, December, they may get a little rent. I understand that, but I'm just saying, for just general talking here, the big money is January, February, March, and April. After that, the house basically sits empty because, like, nobody comes down here in the middle of summer to rent a house. I think they should, especially if you're considering buying, but they don't. So for 8 months, if that house is sitting empty, the property owner is paying that $159 or whatever it is right now, amenity fees every month, even though nobody in that house is using the swimming pools, nobody in that house is playing the golf, nobody in that house is going to the rec centers. So, but he's paying all the amenity fees all year long on that piece of property. So to charge that homeowner of that house, and says that when his kids come down to visit him, that he has to buy, or she has to buy, guest passes, I think it's just not going to fly. I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, I would feel like I'm being ripped off here because I'm paying $159 on a house over here that nobody's even in it every month. And at the same time, if I have one of my kids come down to visit me, I got to go pay $20 to get a guest, or whatever the price. I'm just throwing that out there. Whatever price they want to charge, I got to pay $20 to get a guest pass. I just feel like I was being ripped off. I understand her point, but it ain't going to work. And the second reason why it's not going to work is there's no agency in the villages that's going to be able to keep tabs of all that. Who's here? Who ain't here? Who's got the guest pass? Who don't? Because there's nothing that says that you have to buy a guest pass for your guests. It only says they have to have a guest pass to use any of the amenities. So if your kids want to come down and visit you, there's a lot of things here that you don't need a guest pass to do. So if your kids are coming down, and let's say you don't do swimming pools, you just don't want to be out in the sun because of melanoma problems. You don't do golf, you don't play golf. They're coming down because they want to, let's say, here's a scenario that I hear quite a bit. They're coming down and they're using Grandma and Grandpa's house as a free place to stay while they take their kids down to Disney World, okay? And they might go down there for a couple of days and rent a hotel room, but then they come back and spend the rest of the week with Grandma and Grandpa and Mom and Dad here. So they don't need any passes because they're not going to do anything here. But in the evenings, they like to go out and get a bite to eat. You don't need a pass to do any of that. You go to any restaurant. Nobody needs any kind of a guest pass to do that. They may want to run down to, say, Brownwood, Lake Sumter, any of that stuff, to walk around, maybe have a beer or two and just kind of enjoy the area, go shopping. Don't need a pass for any of that. Or they want to go to a movie. Don't need a pass for any of that. And then I'll go down to Square at night and we'll listen to the band. and get a 2-for-1 beer. They have the 2-for-1 drink thing at Lake Sumter. They got it here too. But you know what go down and get a 2-for-1 beer. We'll listen to the band, you know, and maybe do a little dancing. Don't need a pass for none of that. That's all open to the public. Everything is. I'd like to go to the country club and maybe listen to a band at one of the local country clubs and have a drink. You don't need a pass for that. So you see what I'm getting at? But anyway, I just don't think that whole thing's going to work. But I do thank her for trying to come up with something, because it seems like a lot of people in the villages that work in these offices, they don't come up with nothing. The easiest thing for them to do is just collect more money, and they talk about voting a lot. But I got to tell you, I sometimes wonder why any of these people do what they do, because they don't get nothing done. And then the only thing that they can do, it seems like, is spend money. They like to spend other people's money. So here's an article that says, what's going on with recycling in the villages? Good question. I've noticed the same thing. I'm not even going to read this because I know exactly what it's probably about. I recycle. I think it's what we all should be doing, because we just can't keep burying trash. I mean, to me, it's just inconceivable for me to think that we can just keep burying garbage in the ground and play this out of sight, out of mind concept for hundreds of years and not to come back and bite us in the butt. It just seems stupid to me. I don't know why we're not incinerating a lot of this. Indianapolis has a huge incinerating plant down there that most of the recyclable stuff goes down there. There's a long, like, assembly line. It's a belt. And I don't know how many people's on each side of this thing. I've been down there. And each person is as this trash goes in front of them, recycled trash goes in front of them, each person has something they're looking for. One or two ladies might be looking for plastic bags, and they just throw them over their shoulders in these little bins behind them. Another person might be looking for plastic bottles, you know, like in milk containers, or a plastic bottle that had iced tea in it, or a plastic Coke bottle, something like that. Water bottles, that's the worst. Plastic water bottles everywhere. That we have to get rid of, and they grab them and throw them on their shoulder. Well, by the time this trash gets to the very end down there, the rest of it is non-recyclable stuff. That goes into an incinerator, and it burns off, and that boils water, which turns a turbine somewhere, which creates electricity that's sold back to the city of Indianapolis. And why we're not doing more of that is beyond me, because that's been in effect in Indianapolis for many, many, many years and decades. And you just don't see that everywhere else. We still play this game of dig a big hole, throw garbage in it, cover it up, out of sight, out of mind. And everybody thinks, well, that's good. Well, it's not good. I don't like it. So anyway, I recycle. Everybody around here does. We play the rules, you know, with what they say. All recycled products has to be in a clear trash bag. That way the guy picking it up will look in that trash bag and make sure everything in there is recyclable. And yes, if you put stuff in it that's not recyclable, I have seen them leave that bag behind, and they won't take it. So, and exactly what that is, I'm not sure. But I know I've seen some bags left behind because things are in there that they don't recycle, so they don't pick it up. But we've never had a problem. And you also put recycled bags on one side of your driveway, and then you put your garbage bags, which is in the, you know, non-see-through bags, on the other side of the driveway. And like I say, we do separate it. And in the last couple of weeks, I can't speak for this week because I wasn't here, but the last couple of weeks I noticed one trash truck comes by, and he's picking up the recyclable stuff, and he's picking up my trash, and they're throwing it all in the same truck. I don't understand what that's all about. I mean, you go to the efforts of recycling things to try to help clean up the atmosphere and stuff the best you can, and they throw it in a garbage truck. And I know they're probably not taking it and separating it. You know, it's going to the dump. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. By the way, for those of you that think about buying a rental property, I was going to say something a while ago and it just came back to me. The guy that has the empty house, but he still has to pay the amenity fees even when it's empty every month, the owner of that house has to do that. Also, you have to pay for trash pickup. even if you have no trash. That goes every month. Electricity has to stay on. You can't shut it off. The air movement in the house, there's a good reason for that. The air movement in the house has to move once in a while, or mold will get a hold. You don't want that. So you can have an air mover installed, and that way you don't have to run the air conditioner if you don't want to. But most people just turn it up about 80 degrees, or 81, somewhere in that area, and that way it kicks on once in a while, keeps the air moving, and things like that. And then you can also get a filter to go in the, I'm going to say furnace, but they don't have it really, in my area, they don't have really a furnace. We've got air movers in the garage because we have heat pumps that pushes the air through the house. And you can get a special filter to go in there that removes pollen, it removes, I guess, things in the air that could possibly cause a mold problem later on. And I have that filter. They're expensive. I think my filter was like I want to say $120, something like that. But you only have to do it once a year, so it's not going to kill you. But anyway, just a thought. Cat quarantined after biting former state representative for the Villages. That must be Janet Tutt. She wasn't no state representative. She was the developer's puppet. Well, here's a full-timer speaking back about the amenity fee thing. Says, we are full-timers, and my opinion on the amenities is to continue as they have been. However, I can see how some residents find changing all flower beds can stand to be biseasonal. It seems that the plants in most residential areas haven't either taken root or not been planted properly. We are landlords in a different state, and although it's not the Villages, we pay for our, I'm reading exactly what's typed here, something's wrong, but it says we pay for our taxes. I think he talked about his property taxes, amenities, and maintenance to provide our guests the benefits of the stay. That's true and not true. The only comment I'll make about that is the flower thing. He talked about they change flowers here in all the different flower beds that you see around 4 times a year. And some people are saying that they ought to, not do that. I've heard a lot of people say they ought to just stop doing it altogether and putting green. And I always thought that was kind of odd that people would say that, because the one thing that people are drawn here is the beauty of the area and the cleanliness. You hear it all the time. Oh, I love the flowers and the roundabouts and all these different places. And boy, everything is so clean. You don't see trash laying around. You don't see, stuff, and you don't. But then when they move here, that's the first thing that they criticize. Flowers. He don't want them 4 times a year. He wants them maybe twice a year to save money. I want things to stay the way they are, clean and pretty. And I want people that have dogs to start having a little bit of respect. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but this happened, I think, last week. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you haven't heard, those of you that's up north that watch my channels, if you haven't heard, I'm going to read this to you. It says, a large flightless bird kills its Florida owner. I don't know why people have certain pets or what they consider to be a pet. I really don't. It just, people have pet chimpanzees. I don't get it. People have pet alligators. I don't get it. People have pet pythons. I don't get it. Because all these things eventually ends up coming back and haunting you. I forget the name of the bird, but it's like an ostrich, and it's from Australia. Cassowaries. It's that big bird that kind of looks like an ostrich, but it has blue coloring on the face and the feathers, and it's also got a hard crown on top of its head. It's their feet, their hooves. They can kick you and literally break your back. And then they got them claws that if they kick you and go down, I guess they can literally just cut you wide open, and then not to mention what they can do with that beak and just beat you to death. But anyway, he killed the owner. I guess there's a good reason why not to have a 6-foot turkey as a pet. Says villager facing felony charge after alleged attack at dog park in the Villages. Villager is facing a felony charge after an alleged attack at a dog park in the Villages. Kenneth Frischman Rudlin, 69, of the village of Osceola Hills at Soaring Eagle, was arrested Sunday evening at the Atlas Canine Dog Park on Moyer Loop in the village of Pine Ridge. Another villager had taken his 2 dogs to the dog park, and one of his dogs took a ball from Rutland's dog. According to an arrest report from Fruitland Park Police Department, Rutland hit the other man's dog with a 2-foot-long Chuck-It ball launcher. The other man tried to break up the fight between the dogs when Rutland turned his attention to him and began striking the other man with a ball launcher. Dog owners. I got nothing against dogs. It's the dog owners. Some of these dog owners are just downright nuts. They just walk around with their head in the clouds. This happened in Wildwood. Didn't happen in the villages, but Wildwood is kind of like right next to the villages in the Brownwood area. Florida man busted for singing dirty song to neighbor. I'm telling you, man, some of these people, good God. Florida man buried friend's body in backyard after he overdosed on heroin. I guess they didn't have the money to bury him in a graveyard. Homeowners in the villages makes pleas to remove problematic trees. Some of these problematic trees that they talk about, they go to the villages and they're pleading, about, they put in requests. They want to have the permission to remove this tree or that tree. And the truth of it is, some of these trees are protected by Florida law. The villages don't make Florida law. The developer doesn't make Florida law. He has to follow Florida law. So sometimes I think people are thinking that he's like a king or something, and he's like the almighty around here. He is in a lot of ways, but not when it comes to this kind of stuff. Anyway, let's see what it is. I haven't read it. 2 homeowners pleaded for permission to get rid of problematic oak trees. Well, if it's Spanish oak, they're protected. At their homes in the village of Mallory Square, they won permission Wednesday morning after previously being denied by the Architectural Review Committee. I have a designer home on a postage stamp size lot, Sandra Kaiser said, describing her situation at 404 Simpson Street. She said a 10-inch caliper, it's a caliper oak, tree has become a burden for she and her husband, who purchased a home in 2015. I'm looking at a picture and I really don't see where that tree's a problem at all. They just don't want it. Because somebody has been, over the years, has been paying somebody to come in. And you've probably seen these trees, and they'll trim them into a perfect ball, very flat across the bottom. How they do that, I don't know, but I love the looks, but I know it's probably costly to get that done. I can't do yard work anymore. The tree is just a pain. I really don't see where that tree doesn't even come close to your house. She said the oak tree had been planted by a previous owner at the home and not the developer. An arborist report was not favorable to Kaiser's desire to get rid of the tree. This is a healthy young live oak. The tree has been heavily shaped, in the past, but is now starting to grow out of it. The structure of the tree is good. I would suggest that the tree be pruned by an arborist to clean it up and get it growing properly. There is nothing really wrong with this tree. Kaiser and her neighbor, William Welker of 416 Simpson Street, were represented by Hall's Complete Landscape. The landscaper said both trees had become financial burdens for the homeowners. He said Walker is spending $500 per year to keep the tree trimmed and to keep it from growing over the street lights. However, the arborist pointed out the references street lights is 11 feet away. The tree really needs to be let to grow naturally. The landscaper promised that trees which would... Hey guys, just to update that little video there on the tree in the news. I'm trying to finish this up late at night so I can get out of here. I gotta go to bed. It's been a long day. The ARC approved that tree to be removed because of the financial burden that was on the homeowners. It was not a protected species that Florida has on the mossy oaks, a lot of them call. call them. But anyway, they allowed to do it, and it was a done deal, and the tree's been removed. So with that, Tommy say.
See you on the other side.